Hello, guys. Welcome to another live Costa Rican Vacations webinar. Great to have you. And for all of those of you that are joining us, Happy New Year. We're excited to kick off this new year with a special webinar very much focused on sport fishing here in Costa Rica. And to kick us off, we are going to be kind of joined here, as you can see, by a couple of guests, one of which you may know very much from Frog TV, previous webinars. Justin DeBoom is our sales manager and fishing expert. How are you doing, Justin?
Fantastic, Baker. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And one of our senior travel consultants at Costa Rican Vacations and fishing specialist, Sebastian Rojas, otherwise known as Sebas. How are you doing, Seb?
Hey, Adam, all good. Thank you for the invite.
No problem at all. And guys, this month we have a special guest, one of our closest partners here, located very close to Jaco down in Los Sueños, is the sales and marketing director, Joaquin Rodriguez. Joaquin, how's it going, mate?
Hey, Adam, Justin. I prefer to call him Seabass. It's more fishing-like. I really appreciate the invitation.
No problem. Guys, we've got Joaquin on the webinar because, as you're going to find out, if you don't already know, Los Sueños and the area around Jaco is one of the best spots in the country for sport fishing. And if you are going to stay there, stay in Costa Rica is one of the very best places to visit. We highly recommend it. We go there many, many times a year. So as we discuss in this webinar more, you're going to get more information on this, plus some essential questions about fishing that we've revised over the course of the next 45 minutes to an hour. Guys, don't forget, as ever, at the end, we're going to have a live Q&A session as well. So you can get your questions in about any topic regarding travel to Costa Rica. Obviously, if they're focused on fishing, we will get to those as well. But if you're traveling in the next few months or even have a question about thinking about coming down to Costa Rica, get those questions into us, and Justin and Sebas will answer those live on air as well. I'm going to add a bunch of links as we go inside the chat. So as we talk about the different areas around the country, Wendy Weber, our marketing guru, is in the background helping me out with links. She's already got started. So you'll be getting plenty of links as well. I will also direct you to our YouTube channel so you can subscribe and follow along for weekly webinars, podcasts, and all content related to Costa Rica. And of course, I will share everyone's links at the end of this webinar so you can reach out to Justin, Sebas, or even Joaquin directly should you wish to do so. So guys, get your questions coming in. We might get to some of those live, but the biggest question that always comes up when we're discussing sport fishing in Costa Rica, which of course is an amazing destination, where's the best place to go sport fishing? Justin, I'll throw this over to you because it's a huge question. When someone asks you, how do you answer that off the bat?
The truth is, the entire Pacific coast of Costa Rica is exceptional. Costa Rica is world famous for fishing year round. The key is, depending on the time of year you're going to visit, will dictate the area that we'll recommend, and then also your target species. Fish do move, and so that's one of the things that we do is let us know when you want to travel, what you want to target, and we're going to make the best recommendations to put you in the right area at the right time of the year.
Sebas, when you get that question, like Justin said, obviously the Pacific side is incredible. We're going to talk about the Caribbean side on the Atlantic coast as well, depending on what you're looking for. Do you always send people straight to Central Pacific? Do you direct them if they're more focused on fishing first, or if they're interested in beautiful all-inclusives, beaches? Okay, you can fish in the north of the country as well. How do you manage that?
So it's pretty much what Justin was saying. It's not about just sending them over a place first. It's about asking the right question. What's the species that you're looking? When are you looking to travel? Because that's going to decide whether we have them in the central, in the north, or south of the country. Whenever they want the all-inclusive experience, we try to be upfront that it's going to be very important that the trip takes place after May, that it's where the season takes place for the all-inclusive areas. But yeah, at the end, it's what Justin was saying. It's specific all year long, just depends on what the customer is looking for, the targeted species and for the month. And from there, we can decide where to help them or where to recommend the fishing experience.
Makes a lot of sense. Justin, when you get fishing clients specifically, how many fishing clients? Costa Rica has become such a well-known location, right, for the last 25 years, especially since you've been here. How do you direct fishing experts? They've probably got a solid idea, right? Are they already inquiring to go to the Jaco Central Pacific area, looking for marlin and sailfish specifically?
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. The tournaments generate a lot of buzz for Costa Rica. I mean, we've had great catch reports, but most people, when they do inquire, they're hearing names like Los Sueños, Capos, Manuel Antonio. It's also the area where there's the most developed marinas. Guanacaste is becoming more popular. There's a few tournaments showing up there. But for whatever reason, Costa Rica's fame, especially for bill fishing. Let's keep in mind there's inshore fishing, there's on the Caribbean coast, you've got tarp and things like that. But for whatever reason, Costa Rica, well, I know why, but Costa Rica is known as the bill fishing capital of the world. And the Central Pacific area is really what's garnered that fame. While it's famous and it's great in other areas, Los Sueños, Capos, Manuel Antonio, I mean, they are home to some of the most prestigious and sought after tournaments in the country and in Central America. And that's where people tend to look forward. And our charter fleet is exceptional in both those areas.
For sure. Joaquin, is it not true that right now we're in the middle of the fishing high season, starting in January all the way through to March? The events that take place around Los Sueños at this time of year are pretty incredible. Can you give us a live feeling of what it's like down there at the moment?
Well, we're all very excited. We fish year round and we catch and release fishes year round, but we're all very excited because we just finished our first leg of the Triple Crown here at Los Sueños with numbers. I mean, I've been helping fishermen plan their trips to Costa Rica for over 20 years. The numbers we saw last week have been insane. The first day, one boat won the daily with 41 sailfish, which is a record we've never had in 20 years. And combined in the 3 days, we released 2,360 billfish. And there were only 46 boats, so that's an average of 51 fish per boat in 3 days. So everyone was super excited, and this is, I mean, not only a great event, but it also brings a lot of attention to Costa Rica, our resort, Los Sueños Resort, and the area. So it's really good for us.
Michael Jordan came down for this thing this year.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really big it up any bigger than that, right? So it's not only is it incredibly popular globally now, geographically, it's an incredible spot to fish. Joaquin, when you first started over a couple of decades ago working at Los Sueños, how does it compare then to how it is now? Obviously, the popularity's grown, and it sounds like based on those record numbers, the fish are plentiful.
Yeah, the fishery, you know, it changes year over year, and we've had incredible years like this one. We have slower years. What's changed in the past 20 years, I mean, the resort has fully developed. All of its amenities are fully finished. The marina is spectacular. We have a very nice golf course, and we have close to 100 vacation rental homes to offer for smaller, bigger, or huge parties. In 20 years when we started, we now have a greater connection to the San Jose area with I can't say new anymore because it's been there for over 10 years, but it was a game changer. Our commute time to the main airport in San Jose went down from 2.5 hours to sometimes an hour and a half, an hour and 20 minutes when there's less traffic. So that was a game changer. And our little town, Jaco, has changed a lot. There's a lot of nicer shops, nicer restaurants to go out and spend time there. So yeah, we've seen the area growth, and sport fishing was a big engine behind it. I mean, we received, our company alone hosts over 10,000 travelers per year, and almost half of those are fishermen and fisher women and fishing kids, because something that makes Los Sueños special, it's a family-friendly destination. I can't tell you how many times I've hosted a group of friends who come fishing, and they're used to going to fishing lodges around the world, and after staying a few days in this super nice accommodations overlooking the ocean and going to the spa, they come to the conclusion that this is a place where they can bring their family. And like that, the next year, I see them coming and introducing me to their wives, their little ones, and going out fishing with kids. And I've seen so many times a father call me and say, hey, My little Timmy caught his first sailfish in his life, and we'll treasure these memories all our lives. It's really special.
It's a destination that everybody loves. Los Sueños is truly unique. Let's be
Yeah,
honest. Yeah.
that's what I was going to say. I've got a question right at the end, but you kind of touched on it now. I mean, Sebas, I'll throw this over to you because listening to Joaquin, we've been here in Costa Rica for a long time. And that, like Justin says, Los Sueños has become its own location, getting to it, just over an hour from San Jose, from the airport. The new road, it makes it incredibly easy. Joaquin's obviously got this beautiful sunset behind him. We are filming this at midday on the East Coast CST, but you can see that it's like your tropical rainforest as well, wildlife. There's so much to do in the Los Sueños area for families. The golf course is spectacular. They host a number of events every year. The spa, the restaurants that have opened up. Jaco is 10 minutes down the road with a bunch of great amenities and more adventure sports. I was going to ask you, Sebas, the family fishing trips in Costa Rica, is Los Sueños and the Central Pacific a good place to start if you've never been fishing before? You want to bring your family to Costa Rica, you want that experience, but you don't want it solely focused on fishing.
It is indeed, and it's, once again, it depends on the season. The good thing is Los Sueños has great fishing all year long. But whenever we talk with customers that it's the first time traveling to Costa Rica, they're concerned about safety, they're concerned about travel times, about all these different things that could happen or makes parents a little bit more concerned when traveling with their kids. It's an extra reason on why Los Sueños is so spectacular. It's one of the safest properties we have around. We have so many things to do for the families, for the kids, to keep them entertained. It's usually a fully equipped condo, so you have larger space for the kids to be running around. You don't have them in just a hotel room. You have a lot of activities. The fishing, as Joaquin was saying before, it's one of the best marinas or the best marina. It's the capital fishing. So you get everything. You get the great fishing, you get the great experience. Lots of family after the first visit, as Joaquin was mentioning, they come back and they say, hey, this is the trip we want to keep on doing. We haven't done anything like this in all of our years traveling as a family. And it's because this is really a special place. Like, you find everything on a peaceful ambience with a lot of things to do, keep everybody entertained, everybody happy. And usually one of our first to go places whenever people are doing their first trip to Costa Rica, looking to fish, but also looking to do some other activities. We have great partners around that offers a lot of activities, the rainforest, fun things for kids, hike, whatever it is. You have the golf course, you have spas, restaurants. I mean, there's no place in Costa Rica that delivers everything that Los Sueños has in just one spot.
Yeah, it's a good point because
Adam,
like,
if I may, something that I've noticed over the years, our captains, our boat owners have understood over the years that when they take a family out on their boats, it's a different kind of trip than when they have 4 hardcore anglers that all they want to do is catch fish and run from one point to the other. That, I mean, it requires a lot of energy, it requires a lot of time under the sun, and it's sometimes exhausting. And they understand that when they have a family with little kids, and they plan accordingly. And a lot of them bring gear for the little ones, like snorkels and floating toys. So after fishing for a while, and when they start seeing the kids getting bored, they stop and they find a cool spot and they let the kids jump and fool around for a while. And another thing a lot of boats are doing that I really like, it's a combination of doing a Tortuga Island tour with some fishing. So you get a bit of both worlds, and you have some relaxation on the beach, and while you're going and while you're coming back, you throw the lines out, you can catch some fish. It's more about having fun and spending time with the family than just being, I mean, crazy about running around for fish.
Yeah, no. I mean, you guys make a great point. It's become its own destination with so much to do around it. Like you say, Sebas, it combines very well with Arenal if you want to mix up locations. Then an hour down the road, you've got Mount Juan Antonio, the beautiful beaches and the rainforest as well. So it kind of works for everyone. Highly recommended. I'm sure we'll touch on it in a bit. Guys, I've got some great questions. Rhonda, thanks for reaching out. Jeff Smith, some of these questions we're definitely going to get to later on. A couple of people are already coming down in March. They want to know what they're going to catch. But I want to start, Justin, in terms of how much the weather plays a part in choosing where to fish. Can you also start talking a little bit about the fishing seasons? So say I'm a fisherman, I want to catch marlin and sailfish. I want to know about the seasons and I want to know about the weather so I can make an informed decision.
Yeah, I mean, so the first thing is I'm always transparent is fish move. And Mother Nature is unpredictable. As Joaquin was saying, like, especially in the tournaments, we have years that are just absolutely incredible. And then other years where you question if the fishing has been overfished. But historically in the Central Pacific, starting around mid-December, all the way through April, it's all about bill fishing. Sailfish are showing up. The marlin, oddly enough, things have changed from when I first started here. They're caught year round, and a lot of it has to do with their food source, which is the yellowfin tuna. When Costa Rica implemented the tuna decree, which pushed all the tuna boats out, the yellowfin tuna fishery here is basically year round. I mean, you can go out any day, but that is the primary food for marlin. So while we see a lot of marlin caught this time of year, the truth is marlin in particular now in the Central Pacific and all over Costa Rica can be caught. Sailfish migrate more. But then what happens is, like, the North Pacific is great fishing. There are some winds, the Papagayo winds, that can impact things in the offshore. And so it's unpredictable. It's a natural event, but it is something that does happen. And so while the fish are out there, you can get out there. It just could be rougher. It could be a bit windier. It might not be as pleasant as the calm waters of the Central Pacific. And then you take like the Southern Pacific, which is also great. It's more subject to a lot of rain and weather factors, just the nature of the beast as you go farther south, the Osa Peninsula and areas like that. Rain can become a factor, especially when you get into like August, September, October, November timeframe. It doesn't necessarily mean the fishing gets poor. It just means you fish in the rain. And then that same thing, when you see the rain, you get a lot of the fish like Dorado, because there's a lot of debris out in the water that attracts the Dorado and things. So there's no perfect science. And so as fishing specialists, we try to give all the information to a client. It's not perfect. We make the absolute best decision that we can and the best recommendation based on what we know. And so, yeah, a lot of it depends on what the client wants to do beyond fishing. If you're coming down for 4 nights and you want to fish for 3 days, wham, bam, we know what you're coming down for. But if you're doing a family trip, it's a balance. And that's what I think makes us special, is because we take all those factors in, and we're not promoting one particular destination. While Los Sueños is great, Capos is great, Dominical is great, Guanacaste is great, the entire country, but we try to put people where that checks off the most boxes for them.
Yeah, it's a really good point. And just so you guys know, Joaquin's joining us as a good friend and colleague and partner of Costa Rica Vacations. But just as a point, it's famous, probably the most famous area in terms of events that happen. Obviously, you mentioned the Triple Crown, Sportfishing, Jaco, it's synonymous with Los Sueños. But like you mentioned, all along the Pacific coast, there are different times of years and different points that can be very beneficial depending on exactly what you're looking for. So the ability to customize and move around. And I think, Justin, it's not only what makes Costa Rican Vacations special, that ease of flexibility, it's what makes Costa Rica such a good destination to come down and enjoy sport fishing in itself, right? Because you do have such a degree of flexibility and different species. So Sebas, for those people that might not necessarily know some of these terms of fishing, can you give me the definition and the difference between inshore fishing and offshore fishing in Costa Rica, and what's the difference, and what clients are looking for and where that can be found?
Perfect. So the main difference between offshore and inshore are going to be the species that you're going to be catching and the distance that you're going to go out with the boat. Offshore fishing, Costa Rica is famous, obviously, balefish, sailfish, marlin, mahi, and tuna. Those are going to be the big 4 that we target. And inshore fishing, we're always looking at roosterfish, snappers, sea bass, some other local species. The difference in distance on offshore, you're typically going to be running at least 30 miles out, and we can go up to 50, 60 miles if needed, versus the inshore fishing, where it's usually between the 15, 20 mile range. So inshore, you can do it in 40 minutes. That's why we also never recommend a full day, a half day for offshore fishing. You're going to be spending 1.5 hours running out, 1.5 hours coming back. You're just really not going to be fishing. So inshore, it's a lot shorter the distance. It's more about active fishing, while offshore, it's more about having the lines out, trolling. It's a little bit slower for some people. The good thing, we have great inshore fishing all year long because of the weather conditions that we have. And again, it comes down at the very end and the very bottom of everything comes down to what the customer is looking for, what dates they're looking for, and we can offer them spectaculars, either inshore or offshore fishing.
Yeah. No, that's great information, guys. I've added a couple of links there. So if you want to read more information on our fishing pages specifically about offshore against inshore, you can check it out. I'm not much of a fisherman. I've been out many, many times, and I do remember the challenge, especially if you're going at it for the first few times. If you are going offshore, you need to be prepared to be in that boat for a couple of hours to get 40, 50 miles offshore, right? Then you enjoy the whole day. But if you're maybe a family and you want to have that experience, and I wouldn't say necessarily guaranteeing that you're going to catch something, but inshore, you get to your location pretty quickly, right? You've also got the views. You're pretty much going to catch, rooster fish, right? Is that fair, Justin, summarizing it that way?
Yeah, I mean, inshore fishing tends to provide a bit more action, but a bit more hands-on experience. And so somebody that wants to feel like they're actively fishing, because while you're actively participating offshore, the reality is trolling is the best technique. And so basically you're sitting there waiting for the fish to arrive. But inshore fishing using live bait or casting poppers or jigs or things like that, you're participating in the experience. Some people consider it less boring. It is good for kids because there's a lot of things for them to do and things like that. And also for people that are subject to motion sickness, inshore, you're seeing land, and usually when you can see a fixed object, it's easier on you. You're also in traditionally more calm waters, even though it's very calm offshore as well.
Yeah.
And then going back to what Joaquin said, like the beauty of inshore fishing is like if you get tired of fishing, or you can run to Tortuga Island or jump in. Not all boats have the gear, but like there's a way to break things up with inshore fishing. Whereas when you're offshore, you pretty much see the beautiful ocean and a few birds and maybe a whale, but it's pretty much the same scenery the entire time.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And Joaquin, to your point earlier, if you are inshore fishing out of Los Sueños, there's still a beautiful stretch of coastline all the way slightly further north up to Tortuga Island. So you can actually mix that experience, right?
Correct. Yeah, let's not forget also when you're offshore and you choose to go with one of the larger boats in the fleet, I mean, you can always sit inside. I mean, AC, Starlink providing internet. I mean, and play a few games where the kids are bored and watch an episode until the next fish bite. I mean,
that's true.
Bites.
Elon has definitely changed the world of remote areas.
Getting your internet out there offshore. That's true.
And now there's many boats also in the fleet that have the stabilizers, the sea keepers, so that reduces a lot of the seasickness, which I mean, that's what's ruined most fishing trips in my history. If you're not prepared, you didn't take the correct pill, you didn't eat well, you need, as you said before, I mean, you need to go prepared because you'll be a full day in the ocean, and if you don't get seasick, you'll have a great time.
Yeah, no, very good point. And if you are going out with one of the bigger boats, you will have all those lovely amenities to enjoy it and actually make a whole day of it as well. Guys, I'm going to add a video link in the chat. If you want to watch Justin from about 5-6 years ago, we did a very silly video, but he does cover some of the very helpful visual information. So go onto YouTube, check that out when you have a moment. You can always.
Boy, that's a classic there.
That's a classic. You can always post some comments in the descriptions, and Justin will get back to you. But it is a lot of fun and also very, very helpful. Guys, please keep your questions coming in. There's a bunch of you watching today, which is great. There's more questions coming along. Rhonda, thank you for putting your hand up. We will get to your questions at the end, but otherwise we might get too many people engaging with us live. So keep the questions coming in. We promise to follow up. We discussed inshore and offshore. We've discussed in detail Pacific coast of Costa Rica being incredibly popular, obviously more developed in terms of tourism, especially when it comes to fishing as well. However, there is another side to Costa Rica. There is the Caribbean waters on the Atlantic coast. Justin, when you're targeting roosterfish and tarpon in Costa Rica waters specifically, where would you be looking? And can you give us a little bit of information about the Northern Caribbean waters here?
Yeah, so first, roosterfish are traditionally only found on the Pacific coast.
Right.
I think they might be caught on the Caribbean here. I'm not real sure, but when somebody's targeting the roosterfish, we're always going to put them on the Pacific coast. Tarpon are traditionally always on the Caribbean coast. However, we do have reported catches of tarpon and down in Dominical on frequency because they've made it through the Panama Canal. But traditionally, it's a coast-to-coast trip, which in my opinion is one of the coolest experiences for Costa Rica. So tarpon fishing out of Tortuguero and the Northern Caribbean is amazing. The experience of getting there in its own is kind of like that adventure. You either go by plane or you go by boat. You are not driving there. There are no roads. There are no cars. It's very unique. And the tarpon fishing is really good. You've got Barrio Colorado, you've got Tortuguero, and you've got Parashmina, very famous areas. But then shooting across to the Caribbean, or excuse me, the Pacific coast, like Sebastian said earlier, inshore fishing is great year round. Those species like roosterfish do move, but they don't really migrate. And so it really depends on the time of the year. If somebody wants to catch a massive trophy roosterfish, it's Los Sueños and the Negritas Islands, or Papagayo is arguably the best place to find giant roosters. But if you're looking for quantity, Manuel Antonio and Capos, you can go out on any given day, and even out of Los Sueños, and catch, anywhere from one roosterfish to 30 at times. The key with roosterfish specifically is live bait. A lot of people don't understand that. It's one of the most challenges that we have is that there are no bait stores in Costa Rica. I mean, you can buy frozen bait, but there are no live bait stores. And so since we're talking about this, one thing to keep in mind when you book an inshore fishing trip in Costa Rica, many times you're going to spend part of your trip catching live bait. It seems unfruitful, but having live bait is the key to having a really good inshore trip. So you have to be a bit patient there, but the effort is worth the reward.
Gotcha. Really helpful information. I mean, like you mentioned, Tortuguero is very beautiful as a destination itself. A lot of fresh water from the canals that come out. So Sebas, can you talk a little bit about the differences here in Costa Rica between freshwater fishing, what's available? Obviously, we've discussed in detail, saltwater sport fishing. There is a question from an anonymous attendee, but we're going to discuss it now. And Sebas, as we talk about freshwater, can you also talk about, is it worth visiting the Lake Arenal for fishing?
Absolutely. So Arenal, it's stunning, and it's just like Tortuguero. Just visiting the area by itself, it's going to be a fantastic trip. The lake offers freshwater fishing. It's very good fishing. It's usually done on very small vessels. Most common species that you're going to get out of there, it's going to be the rainbow bass. I'm not quite sure if it's very famous on the state. I know Justin has mentioned it's a cousin of a very famous species on the States.
The peacock, yeah, it's the same family.
The peacock, yeah. It's absolutely beautiful, highly recommended. So if you're visiting Costa Rica, if you're visiting the Arenal area and you want to target some rainbow bass, it's definitely a go. A very nice experience to do. And Arenal as an overall, it's going to be really nice. Freshwater in Costa Rica, it's not that big. It's not that common. We have some options in the Central Pacific and by El Silencio area. And we have some in the south of Costa Rica. But again, it's not what Costa Rica is so famous about.
Gotcha. Very, very helpful. Thank you very much, Wendy, supplying me with more links here. Fishing at the Arenal volcano, we do have an article about that. So if you do want to combine a freshwater fishing trip, perhaps you're with your family, they're going out for zip lining for a day, you can actually jump on the lake as well and check it out. That's the great thing about Costa Rica. There are places all over the spot. So guys, please keep your questions coming in. There's a bunch more coming. I'd like to talk a little bit about where you can find the best fishing charters. Now, it might seem obvious, Joaquin, that you've got some big old boats right down there in the marina right behind you. But what about Quepos? What about Papagayo and Guanacaste? How do they compare based on your knowledge, Joaquin? The best places to go, without obviously going straight to Los Sueños as number one.
Oh, well, my experience, it's mainly in this destination, and something I can tell about anyone going to fish out of the marina. Just having a boat inside of the marina forces the boat owner and the captains to comply with a lot of regulations that sometimes boats outside of marinas are a bit more, I want to use the word flexible. And safety, it's as Sebas was mentioning before, I mean, Los Sueños, it's all about safety when you're in land, but also when you're in the water. I mean, every boat we have here, it's fully insured, complies with every safety regulation. And this marina, it's one of the oldest, and it's full. And what that makes is, if a boat is not performing, if a boat is having poor reviews, if the boat's not doing what they're supposed to do, they get out. They bring a new one that's gonna do a good job. So just fishing out on a boat in a marina, especially the Los Sueños one, which is the one I have most information, it guarantees you're getting on a quality charter.
Yeah.
Maybe Justin and Sebas can comment on Marina Pesvela and Flamingo.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I think that's a really good point, that if you are in a marina, you are following regulations. And I'm going to follow up in a little bit about that, regulations and licenses. But Justin, I think that's pretty fair, right? The big ones, obviously, Marina Pesvela in Quepos, an hour south of Los Sueños. And then, of course, up at Flamingo, and even the smaller one at Papagayo.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, the marina helps maintain a boat much better as well. There's some great boats in Tamarindo, moored up there. The gang over at Tamarindo Sportfishing run an excellent operation. But just in general, when you have a concentration of a lot of charter boats in a marina setting, it also raises the bar. You know, like every captain is competing against the guy parked next to him. And so you continuously see the marina-based charters doing things like seakeepers and putting in sonars and pulling dredges, because it's easy to compare their results to others. It's not a knock on bay boats by any means. It's just naturally that competition forces others to step it up. Also, just from an owner's perspective, if you're going to make a big investment on a boat, it is a lot easier to maintain it. And also, you need to deliver a quality service, because the cost to keep a boat in a marina is much higher than out on the bay. So yeah, and also it attracts more charter boats when you have a marina, because your investment is safe. It's easier for your clients to access. Usually a marina is an area where there's lots of hotels, there's lots of infrastructure. So it kind of goes hand in hand. You know, the marinas come where all the hotels are. All the charter boats go where the marinas are, because there's a lot of people that want to fish.
Yeah.
And so you see, like Flamingo, it's awesome to see that marina open. And you see a lot of the boats starting to show up there, just because it's kind of like a rising tide lifts all boats, you know, no pun intended. And
Yeah.
so when that level is raised, the experience that a client get is also raised as well.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, even just walking around the marina at Los Sueños is a beautiful place to be, whether you like fishing or not. You know, having dinner, having a coffee or a beer, overlooking the sunset behind you. I mean, it's pretty spectacular. It's a lovely environment, and you can see the infrastructure growing around these marinas as well, as they're very, very nice places to be. Flamingo is a good example of one of the newer marinas.
Beautiful.
Right. Yeah. Establishing that area and getting a little bit more interest from the outside. As discussing on the topic of regulations and licenses, Joaquin, I'm going to throw this over to you specifically. Fishing regulations and licenses in Costa Rica, what do they involve? Do marinas such as Los Sueños include this for you? And if not, how do you go about it?
Well, I mean, regulations affect the boat and captains and the anglers. Boat and captains, I mean, I'll leave that part out. I mentioned before, just being inside of the marina, the boats are being very strictly overseen, that they follow that. From an angler and a tourist, they are only required to have a fishing license. And in the Los Sueños Marina, they can buy at the Inco Pesca, which is the name of the government facility that sells them. And they have an office right at the entrance of the chartered dock. So it's very convenient. The day you're going out, you just stop there and you can buy a week fishing license for $15 plus tax. Or, like I think I sent you the link. Travelers can buy the fishing licenses beforehand and print them, so they can avoid that step on the day they're fishing.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it's important to note that regardless if you're fishing or not, if you're going out on the boat, you're required to have a license. That's a question we get all the time. It's not just because you're the one catching the fish or reeling in the fish. If you're on the boat, you are required to have a fishing license.
Okay.
And
is that sorry, go ahead.
And sorry, we were talking so much about families. Kids under 18 do not pay for the fishing license.
Okay, so everybody individually needs a license, not just the boat. So it's everybody that's fishing.
Correct.
How would you get around it if, for example, say you're a partner or you were just accompanying a group but you weren't fishing? Do you have to pay for a license?
If you're going on the boat,
Yeah.
you have to pay a license.
Okay, so everybody over the age of 18, 18 or over, has to pay as an adult, whether you're fishing or not. Great, that's a great
Correct.
piece of information. Guys,
Yeah.
I'm gonna send you the link in the chat that Joaquin mentioned. So it may not be the most ideal, but you can review that information here in Costa Rica. Sorry, Justin, I cut you off.
No, I was going to say Los Sueños has a fishing license office. Marina Pez Vela, they have an agent that's there in the morning that you can purchase fishing license. Flamingo as well. But for all the other regions, like through us, you can book your fishing license in advance and we purchase that for you, or you purchase it online.
Super.
And so
Yeah,
the
these are
online makes it very easy.
Yeah, for sure. These are the kind of really helpful information that people might ask. Okay, so we got a couple more minutes before we get to some of these live Q&A session afterwards. Please keep them coming in. We've got a bunch of you guys asking. Hopefully you found a lot of this information. Justin's actually answered a couple of them, but we will review. So if you guys do want to keep responding and getting over to us, you can do so. I would like to know, Sebas, a little bit more. So for example, what does a typical day on the water look like? So I've never been. I want to do an offshore. I want to catch a marlin, probably some sailfish. I want to aim for a marlin. How does a tour look like? So say I'm staying in Costa Rica, down the Los Sueños. Give me the breakdown in a few minutes.
Perfect. So you wake up, usually breakfast cook in the condo for you. You get on your golf cart, head over to the marina. It's a 5-minute ride inside the property. You purchase your license, and there's the security guard on the docks that will point to you where is the boat located, in case that you don't know it. The slip number. You get on board, meet the crew. Once everybody's on board, we start running out. Since you're looking for marlin, as I was saying before, you're going to be looking at an hour and a half, more or less, travel time. You're going to have a fully equipped mini stock of beers, snacks, if you want to start drinking early. And then about hour and a half, hour 45 minutes, once that you get to the fishing area, the crew will start throwing all the lines into the water, putting everything in order. We start the trawling, as Justin was saying, it's the best technique for the species. And as soon as we get the first bite, if you're an experienced angler, you'll get the line right away. If you are on your first time fishing, the crew or the mate will help you make sure that we have the line secure and hand it over to you so you can reel the fish in. They will be next to you, helping you with everything, making sure that you're comfortable. And once that you get the picture, because sailfish and marlin are catch and release species, that's a very important thing that we haven't mentioned. Once that you have the picture, they'll unhook it and send it all back. And we start the process again, hopefully over 20 more times during the day. Lunch is included during the day, so you'll probably stop for a few minutes to grab something. And then around 3 p.m., they pick up all the lines and we start the run back to the marina. So you're usually around 4 p.m. back at the docks. Anything that you catch that was not catch and release, it's yours to keep. The crew will fillet everything and hand it over in bags. In the marina, we have some options of restaurants that will cook the fish for you. Los Sueños also have the great service of bringing chefs over to your house so you can have a better experience, and they'll prepare everything for you. And if you're doing this the next day, it's just copy and repeat. Same thing every day.
Awesome. That's what I was going to ask at the end. If I've caught something, can I eat it? Like tuna, for example. Joaquin, how does Los Sueños and the marina go about managing that?
Yeah, just on the catch and release, Sebas was mentioning that applies only to billfish. So billfish would be marlin, and the 3 types of marlin we have here, and sailfish. But if you catch a tuna, mahi-mahi or dorado, or a wahoo, the crews in the boats will clean it up, and as Sebas said, put it in Ziplocs for you to take home. And then you have a couple different options. You can go to one of the restaurants of the marina, and they usually cook it for you different ways. They'll do. I had a friend of ours caught 2 really big wahoos, which is one of my favorite fish to eat. And they brought it to the Asian restaurant. So they started with sashimi, a wahoo sashimi, which was great. I had my kids with it, so they did some fish tenders for the little ones, and they had a main course with vegetables and did it at the grill. So That's one option. And then if you can also have one of our chefs go to, if you don't want to go out, you can stay in one of our condominiums or homes. A chef can go to the house and again prep this for you.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really get much better than that. If you've been on the water inshore, offshore, and you've caught some tuna, some wahoo, you're having ceviche. I mean, straight off the bat, delicious. Justin, it
The
looks like
cook
you're
your
already
catch.
hungry.
Yeah, the cook your catch thing is super popular here. We get a lot of almost all local restaurants will be happy to do it as well. And so, but it is a neat experience. And I do see a question in here just talking about the meat fish.
Yeah,
is a lot of times the boats will have something that to do sashimi or something like that on the boat, which some people like that, some people don't, but it does happen. You can't really predict it if you're going to have it. So there's always lunch planned otherwise, but it is something that does happen. And the larger boats are able to cook it, and it's a neat experience.
Awesome. Well, fantastic, guys. Great information. I got one more question before we jump into all these questions in our live session. Really, for the Costa Rican vacations experts, Justin said, Justin, I'm planning a fishing vacation to Costa Rica. What is your top tip and recommendation that I need to know? And maybe Sebas, if you have one as well.
Yeah, I would say decide what your priority is. If the trip is about fishing, make sure your consultant knows that, because they'll design the trip around the best recommendations to match your fishing. If fishing is something you want to do, but it's family or an anniversary, like something specific, just communicate that.
Yeah.
Because it can have a big impact. While we strive to make sure that we check off all the boxes, it is important for us to know what is the purpose of the trip. Vacation is one thing, but like, I'm coming down to catch a sailfish, that's important to know. Or if I'm coming down to enjoy my anniversary and I want to escape on a fishing day, that's completely different.
Yeah, excellent. Great info. Sebas, anything else?
No, pretty much if that's the advice. Like whenever we jump into a call with any customer, we try to take as much information as possible. We were saying this at the beginning. It's not like we just send people over to Los Sueños for a specific destination. That's the value and what we do. We really listen and we try to gather as much information. But the best tip whenever you're planning a trip, make sure you ask questions and you inform us about everything you're looking to do on this trip. That's the best way we can plan an awesome trip for our customers.
Totally agreed. And that flexibility is paramount. Okay, well, guys, we've got a ton of great questions here. So let's jump in. Joaquin, I'm going to throw this one over. Laura's asking, what's the difference between staying in Los Sueños against actually staying in the town of Jaco when you're fishing?
When you stay in Los Sueños, you're staying, they're very, proximity-wise, they're very, very close. Both are an aberrant 20, 25 minutes. Jaco, from our resort, it's, I would say, 8 minutes, 10 minutes top driving. So it's very close. It's the next beach, actually. Los Sueños it's located in Herradura Beach. Herradura is the Spanish word for horseshoe, because that's the shape the bay has, and that's why they chose this destination, because the bay blocks the waves. And Los Sueños is a world-class destination, and Jaco, it's a really nice beach surfer town. So that's the difference.
Yeah. And also, I guess, obviously, if you want to be on the resort, you've got all the resort amenities. And it's very, you've got obviously the golf, you've got access to the marina, walking, getting around is very easy. Jaco is going to be more vibrant, a lot of nightlife, more traditional hotels, a couple of resorts right on the beach. But yeah, it's a surfing beach, so it's not ideal either for young families or going swimming. So very, very good, but both good for fishing. But if you want to get there easy and get there early in the morning, if you can stay in Los Sueños Resort directly, it's probably a lot easier. Okay, Rhonda was asking, Justin, we'll be fishing with Jefe 2 on March the 6th, full day. What can she expect to catch?
Yeah, so Rhonda, I'm actually looking at your itinerary.
There you go.
Thank you for booking with us. So in March up north, if you go offshore, there is the possibility of having the Papagayo winds. Now, El Jefe is a fantastic operation, the best in that area. And so offshore, you would target sailfish and marlin. They also get a lot of tuna and mahi. The big factor up there is the winds. It doesn't impact the ability to go out there. It just can make the experience offshore a bit rougher than other areas. Inshore is incredible in that area. So giant roosterfish, Kubera snapper. You also catch a lot of small yellowfin tunas there. For whatever reason, they come in close. So it really depends on your target species. Specifically for March and that time of year, I tend to try to let the captain decide if your target species is offshore and they say it's great, run offshore. If it's really rough and you're not sold on it, then just say, I want to have a lot of action and a good experience, and let the captain decide. But the truth is, that time of year, you can catch any of the species. The wind is the thing that would really dictate the overall experience offshore.
Great information. Sebas, Peter Fleming has just asked, snook? ? What about snook in Costa Rica?
Yeah,
It's snook, Baker. Snook.
Snook.
No, it's on the Caribbean side. It's also in the area where tarpon is target, and we have plenty of it. It's fantastic on ceviche, so really, really good.
So
I'll chime in there as well.
Go together, I guess. Yeah.
Snook is caught on both coasts. The world record black snook, for whatever reason, is consistently broken out of the Central Pacific in Capos and Manawatuing. Super famous. The challenge is it's getting a bit complicated, and the Costa Rican government is starting to enforce some rules around river mouths. And there are boats that will go in there, but it is getting a bit more complicated for snook, specifically out of these river mouths, because of the protection areas, the green zones, as they call them. So great question. It's a tough one. It's the best way to describe it. Boats will go in there, but it's not really recommended. And until that rule changes, it's a gray area that we just have to be completely honest about, on the Pacific coast particularly.
Yeah, very good. That's what we want, complete honesty and transparency. There's a little link here that Wendy's helping me out with if you're a bit more interested. Another question that came in that you did answer already for Jeff Smith, Justin, but maybe you want to bring it up live. What's the best time to target sailfish and roosterfish on the same trip? And what lures are best for spinning rods and casting for roosterfish?
Yeah, so targeting sailfish and roosterfish, I would focus on the Central Pacific. Just because January through April, because we know that's when the big schools of sailfish show up. Roosterfish, and specifically I would focus out of Los Sueños and the Capos, Manuel Antonio area. The big key with rooster fishing is communicate that and try to get on the right boat. Well, every single charter boat can go out and catch fish offshore, and they can technically do it inshore. There are some captains that are really good at inshore fishing, targeting rooster fish. Out of Los Sueños, you got Wingman, you got Predator, you got MJ on Epic. I mean, everybody can do it, but there's guys that are really good. That's the key with rooster fish. As far as the lures, when they're on the surface, poppers and things like that, darting lures work really good. But in the live bait is by far the best, because a rooster fish is really in the jack family, and their primary location in the water column is like 30 to 90 feet, a little bit more shallow than a amberjack. And so using live bait is by far the best. But when you see them on the surface busting sardinas or things like that, a popper is a blast.
Incredible information. Good to know. Awesome. Someone else is asking, is there an option to just fish inshore for one day? I think we've established that, of course, there is in most locations. Yep. Sebas, Jeff Johnson is staying in Margaritaville up in Flamingo towards the end of June. Would like recommendations for 1 day offshore trip for 3 anglers to target billfish. What's his options out of Flamingo?
Well, he has the brand new marina that we were talking about. Super nice. There are some great charter options out of there. He is in the right area at the right time for the species that he's targeting. So we can help him with both specific boat names and recommendations based on availability. But basically, he has the marina right next to where he's staying, and the fishing season on that area, it's going to be fantastic for the time.
Great. Very helpful.
Yeah, as far as boats, I would, like out of Flamingo, you've got Game Fisher 2 is really good. And then also you've got some Tamarindo boats. But out of Flamingo, fishing with Junior on Game Fisher that's the man. But availability is the challenge.
Yeah. There you go. Get ahead of it. Especially in June, you're nearly 6 months, 5-6 months, you might be okay.
Might be surprised.
You might be surprised.
You might be extremely surprised.
Good to know. Justin, you actually responded, and so did Peter Fleming, to Estelle, who's actually a travel agent trying to help her clients. She's quoting a group who are staying at a villa in Hacienda Pinilla in the north, and they want to know, can they keep their catch? I think we've discussed this, but in a nutshell, it depends on the species, right?
Yep, meat fish is yours to keep.
Yeah.
And then also we did elaborate that we do get this question, can I bring the fish back to the States? So you can. There's no rule that's set not. Airlines are the problems. What I tend to recommend people is like, keep the fish that you can eat and enjoy while you're in Costa Rica. And then once you then release the rest. But we do get diehards that come down that want to load up the coolers and what have you, and that's fine. The key is talk to the airlines. The airlines cause more problems than customs because they have certain rules.
Yeah. Very, very, very helpful. Yeah, no, that's a good one. Just scrolling down, I'm mixing it up between what's open and what's been answered. Sergio Heinfling, who actually works with the NAMU travel group Joaquin, is asking, when or what months are half-day fishing options available from Los Sueños? Is that year-round?
Most boats are only doing half days between May and November.
Okay.
It's very, very busy. I wanted to add this when you were asking tips about planning a vacation fishing, do it with time. Do it with a lot of time. That's going to ensure once, as Sebas and Justin were saying, once you explain what you're looking for, because if you say, I look for certain species, and once you start giving variables, that starts narrowing down the charter fleet into very specific boats, especially as Justin was saying, I want rooster fish. Okay, that really narrows down the list. So the further out you plan your vacation, the better chances you're getting with the best boat and best captain and crew available for what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Sergio also followed up, and Sebas, you described this a little bit. Can you describe the lunch on a full day experience? If you catch a tuna or something similar, can the crew sashimi it? I think we established that they can, depending on the crew, but doesn't that depend on the boat and the experience, what kind of lunch you get?
Yeah, as Justin said before, there are some boats, the bigger boats, that have a little bit more space where to cook whatever you catch. Most of them will be able to do a sashimi or do a quick ceviche or something like that.
Yeah.
And the lunch, it also depends on the day and on the size of the boat, but it's usually something typical from Costa Rica. Could be an arroz con pollo. It could be some sandwiches. So it's always changing. It's not a fixed menu for all boats every single day. But as I was saying, there's always plenty of food. That's also something important. We always ask how many people are coming on board so that the crew can plan accordingly based on that.
Awesome. Good stuff. Hey, there's actually a question for me here, which is quite interesting. So Mike Wallingham is asking, you might not be able to answer this, but I'll ask anyways. In your experience, can you recommend an action camera like GoPro or something similar? I want to make sure we capture the memories, but don't want water, rough waves, etc., to negatively impact it. I mean, being the technical guy, Mike, I've done many shoots with Justin on sport fishing vessels. GoPro cameras and similar action cameras are great that you can actually hook up to the boat. So they'll always be aligned with the horizon, and you won't be there falling all over the place. They do have the new GoPros have great stabilization. So even if it's a bit choppy, the onboard camera will actually remain quite stable. And of course, you can put it in the water as well, get down nice and low. You can put it inside under the water without an issue. If you want a slightly higher camera, I suggested to Justin a couple of years ago, you can get very small, quite cheap DSLRs with a long lens. So you can actually take a much better photo of the fish, the sailfish or the marlin perhaps coming in. And if you do have small drones that use your control as a home, you can send them out quite comfortably from the boat and it will come back straight to you and you can catch it. So there's a ton of options. GoPros are great, but if you want to take something that's further away, get a slightly longer lens that will still be better than your phone, and it'll probably look a little bit better.
And a drone on a boat offshore is tricky. Just make sure you can accept that it might go in the water because elevation changes on water.
This was the big thing.
Drone does not measure its height above the water level. That constantly moves due to swells. It's easy to drown one.
Yeah, make sure that if you're going to catch it, you're going to catch it quickly, and that your home point is your remote control.
Yes.
Some drones have the home point where it took off using the GPS. And if you're drifting, you could be a couple of miles away and then it needs to go home and it just disappeared. So
I
make
personally
sure.
donated one to Poseidon.
But great question, Mike. GoPros are the way to go for sure. Somebody else anonymous here is, where is the best place to fish and stay for the calmest water for inshore fishing, and a place to stay where we don't need a vehicle? Justin?
Yeah, I mean, Los
Joaquin? I
Sueños.
mean, it's Los Sueños, right?
There it is. It's a self-contained facility.
Yeah.
Also for inshore and calm, it definitely works well because on that side of the coast, it's definitely good. But in fairness, Marina Pez Vela has condos right there on site. They're also building a tower, a 7 or 8 story tower. Those condos should be finished in the next 12 months, 18 months, somewhere in there. And Flamingo has condos as well. So the truth is, for inshore, you can pretty much do it anywhere, and it's typically calm because you don't want to fish close to the rocks and reefs when it's rough.
Yeah.
So traditionally, it's going to be calm, or you might have a swell, but it's not going to be super rough as somebody would consider.
Yeah, that makes sense. Mike was also asking Sebas, what can one expect in Drake Bay in March down in the Southern Pacific?
It's gonna be great fishing. You're in the summertime down there, but Justin was saying before, Pausa Peninsula tends to be pretty wet after October. The fishing, it's pretty good basically all year long. March is gonna be great for offshore fishing as well as inshore fishing, and it's gonna be nice weather. So fishing wise and weather wise, you're looking at a great month out of Pausa Peninsula.
Yeah.
It's also a neat area to fish because it's not as developed. And there's many times you'll be out there and you won't see other boats.
Yeah,
It's still somewhat
true.
remote. It's getting more popular, but it is a beautiful area to be in March.
Yeah, yeah. Justin, I think you followed up with Patrick. McDonald was asking, he's coming fishing in May from Playa Conchal in the north. Do you recommend onshore or offshore fishing for more action in May?
Both are great. The truth, I mean, offshore or inshore, May is just a nice time to be up there. The weather's nice. The fishing's good. The seas are calm. It's just all around solid destination for that time of year.
Yeah, cool. Joaquin, a couple more questions here. Penultimate, anonymous attendee. How many people can fish on a boat, and how many crew members are traditionally on the boat? I guess it depends on the size, right? And obviously the size of the group.
It's going to depend on the size. The smaller boats, small, let's say under 30 feet, under 32 feet, will take up to 4 tourists, 4 anglers. They'll always have one captain, one mate, sometimes 2 mates. On smaller boats, 2 mates can be a bit crowded. And then the mid to large size boats, let's say a 42 Maverick, which is a very popular in this area, can take up to 6 anglers. Dreammaker, which is it's a 35-foot cabo, they can take up to 8 anglers, and they specialize more. It really depends. Because if you have 8 fishermen versus if you have a family of 8, that some of them want to fish and the rest want to relax, I wouldn't mind having that many people. And then the bigger boats over 50 foot, they'll always have 2 crew member plus the captain, and they can take up to 10 fishermen.
Yeah, good. Okay, very cool information. Okay, Sebas, for your final question before we wrap up, I've got Johnny Phillips here planning a trip in February for sailfish. Are the waters rough during this period? Would like to do a zip line also? And where might be the best place to stay for those 2 things?
So it will depend again if this is a fishing trip or it's a vacation trip where they want to have some fishing.
Yeah.
If it's a fishing trip, the best way to go, it's doing something like Los Sueños or Quepos, because February the waters are going to be calm. The area is right for offshore or inshore fishing, and we have a lot of activities to enjoy around, zip lining and a lot more. If this is a family trip where they want to fish one day, then I would recommend a combo. Doing a few days at the volcano where you can experience the hot springs, you can do the zip line among the forest, and there's a lot more of things to enjoy, especially for the kids. And then moving you over to the coast, again, it's going to be always the Central or South Pacific. So we can plan the day fishing and do more activities from the beach if needed.
Great. Great answer. And to wrap up, Justin, Greg Smith, we touched on this kind of trophy fish,
It's a good
taxidermist in
question.
Costa Rica, logistics. Can you get that back to the States or beyond?
Yeah. So first thing is, now in today's world, you don't have to kill the fish to get a fish mounted, as we call it. It's all lifelike mounts. Here in Costa Rica, and I think throughout the world, Gray's Taxidermy is by far the premier taxidermist. All the boats in Costa Rica will have the information. They know how to measure. They have the pricing. But it doesn't have to, the definition of a trophy fish is what you want. You know, some people could have a catfish as their trophy fish, but you can get a lifelike mount of any fish you want. And the crew has all the information, and you don't have to kill the fish to get them out.
That's very cool. Didn't know that.
Yep.
Very
They're made in the States, so shipping them is not a problem at all. Since it's not the actual fish, it's not a big deal at all.
Yeah. Excellent, guys. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that live webinar as much as I've had. I've learned even more, and I've done this in a number of times. So Justin, Sebas, Joaquin, thank you very much for your time today. Guys, as promised, you'll find Justin and Sebastian's bio, as well as direct email in the chat here. And you'll also find Joaquin Rodriguez's email, joaquin@stayingcostarica.com, if you want to reach out to Joaquin directly. For those of you that have stayed to the end, I appreciate it. This webinar will be released on our Costa Rican Vacations YouTube platform tomorrow, all being well. So you can watch back, and we'll add as many links as we can in the description from this chat. Guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe and follow along so that you can join us again for February's webinar, which will be advertised in a couple of weeks' time. But guys, hey, Justin, Sebas, Joaquin, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks to you.
Absolutely.
We will be seeing you guys very, very soon. Take care. So for me, hasta la próxima.
See ya.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.